This is being reborn as Sasuke in Konoha Part 9. Hope you guys like it. Chapter 41, V.1C.41 Aftermath. That seal really is piss poor. Sasuke thought to himself, before deciding to dodge, knowing that his current level of strength is not enough to contend with that. I mean, if I knew of Tsunad's technique to encase oneself with chakra, then I may go against that level of strength. Sasuke identified Tumrai still staying down below, cowering in fear. Sasuke and Gaara would further battle, more and more, leading to Gaara becoming more and more like the beast that is known as the Ichibi, or its actual name of Shukaku. Gaara only became faster and faster, stronger and stronger in the face of Sasuke's capabilities. Even fire-based techniques would not work against Gaara anymore like it had in the area, where he managed to melt the sand enough to penetrate that barrier. The main difference being the time and level of power Gaara currently hold. If Sasuke had enough time with fire, he may be able to melt down and destroy those pieces of the Ichibi's flesh, but even then Sasuke doubts it. After all, the tailed beasts are made out of some extremely sturdy stuff. No, they are made out of chakra. Entirely. The more and more damage Sasuke did, the more and more that contributed to Gaara's transformation. What is wrong? Do you fear me? Does your existence amount to this? Gaara continued on and on, raving about this and that as he transformed more and more. Sasuke on the other hand didn't have no talk, no jutsu to help him out in this situation. But I do have Kotomatsu Kami, which I argue is more powerful. Thankfully Sasuke had not been nerfed in this ability like the nerf placed on it when implanted into someone that isn't an Uchiha. Even then, I doubt anyone could bring this eye's power into full without having made it their own. Truly. Sasuke thought as his right eye transformed into a shape different from his left and different from the original Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan, along with its eternal variant. Moving faster, Sasuke started to release the gravity seal levels one by one, becoming faster and faster himself. Forget the strain and pain, let's have some fun. Sasuke was now moving at a pace that Gaara couldn't keep up with. Tumrai was watching intently herself. What is going on? Sasuke started to increase the beatdown he was giving Gaara in his semi-transformed state, further assessing his own physical capabilities but limiting himself so not to cause some kind of permanent damage. Messing with Sasuke's insides right now, his very cellular and genetics data was the seal and his chakra flowing throughout. If something happens to interrupt this flow, it would cause even greater pain. Maybe even doing some type of internal damage. Down on the ground, Gaara started to give in more as his body, while unharmed, was unable to currently keep up with Sasuke's strength. I won't die here. My existence will be proven above all else. Up from the ground, Gaara exploded, releasing Shukaku more and more, but Shukaku itself was not in control, where instead Gaara still managed to have full control over the chakra and form of this tailed beast. While that seal is faulty, it would seem that it has some interesting capabilities. Sasuke thought, before he went towards Tumrai and picked her up again. What are you doing now? Tumrai called out, unsure of what Sasuke was planning to do. Don't worry about it. Sasuke replied, his eyes still kept on the now gigantic form of Gaara Ichibi, as Gaara is still in control, despite his current state of mind. Sasuke hoists Tumrai over his shoulder. You stay right there. Wouldn't want you to accidentally get squashed or anything. Now. To truly test something out while no one is around. Sasuke started to build up his chakra, his eyes transformed into their Mangekyo form. His eyes. Tumrai saw something even stranger still, for Sasuke's eyes transformed even more into something even more alluring. They changed. Susanoo. Sasuke whispered, before chakra started to explode and form something around Sasuke and Tumrai. Further and further, this transformation carried on as Sasuke's chakra became denser and denser, forming something easily seen to the naked eye. Susanoo is a gigantic, humanoid avatar made of the user's chakra which surrounds them and fights on their behalf, that has been handed down throughout all the generations of the Uchiha clan. It is the strongest ability available to those who have awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan in both eyes. When activated, Susanoo forms around the user and becomes an extension of their will, acting and attacking on their behalf. By default, Susanoo is anchored to its user and they to it. In its less developed forms it will move around with the user, whereas in its more completed forms the user will be suspended within Susanoo, being brought with it as it moves around. This connection allows Susanoo to shield against physical attacks, one that becomes more difficult to penetrate as it is manifested more fully. Sasuke's current Susanoo stage was like that of its complete form. The Susanoo possesses demonic horns, a long appendage on its chin, and a malevolent grin. A helmet that features a long Tengu nose, 2 spikes over each eye, a slit stretching across its mouth, 3 gaps on each of its cheeks and 1 additional gap on its chin. Sasuke within, along with Tamarai now faced down the transformed Gaara. Be grateful. You shall be the first to witness the power of my Susanoo. Sasuke's voice traveled to Gaara, who responded. I'll show you the real power of the sand spirit. Gaara came out, half his body exposed atop the tailed beast's head. Soon enough, Gaara was now under, fully, and instead, Shukaku appears. I'm finally able to emerge. The Ichibi called out. Right there. The guy I wanna kill. You. Shukaku said. Tamarai reacted. Get us out of here, you fool. Let me go. She struggled, but now she was trapped within Susanoo along with Sasuke. Wind style, air bullets. Shukaku started blasting. Sasuke started to direct his Susanoo, deflecting and resisting everything that Shukaku was releasing against him. Gaara's ultimate defense was nothing in comparison with this form, for Sasuke was able to easily push aside a lot of blows. Got to avoid making things appear too suspicious. I know for sure some people might be coming here soon. Sasuke thought, for Susanoo is nothing but a trick to wake Gaara up so that he may use Kotomatsu Kami on him. Sasuke had decided that this would be used after I try and use my own form of talk no jutsu, of course. Sasuke was amused with himself, even in this situation, knowing that he could rely on his current abilities to get him through this battle. After a little back and forth, Sasuke surprised Shukaku by deactivating his Susanoo form and landing atop of his head. No. I haven't even been out for that long. Sasuke gave Gaara a good ole punch to his cheek, thoroughly making sure to wake him up. Sasuke also created a shadow clone to allow Tamarai down, for this battle did in fact cause a lot of damage to the ground. Tamarai for sure would have been crushed, unlike where Naruto would have tried to protect Sakura in that area and going somewhere else instead. Why don't you go and find that other brother of yours? I am sure he is doing just fine, if you get to him in time, that is. Sasuke smirked before the clone took her away, her own emotions all over the place but determined to at least heed his advice. Shukaku dissolved, leaving Gaara to fall to the ground, his body having run out of chakra and being physically exhausted from this battle. He also so happened to be mentally exhausted as well. Landing safely, Sasuke stood over Gaara's form. I will not disappear. I cannot disappear. Gaara said, struggling to even say these few words. Loneliness. Sasuke started, his Sharingan eyes staring straight into the broken eyes of Gaara of the Sand. Loneliness is difficult. The very nature of the universe and the state of matter dictates that everything in the end shall be alone. Loneliness is a given. Gaara's eyes didn't stop looking into Sasuke's eyes. Alone as you may be now, are you sure you have no one else around you? No one that cares for you and you care for yourself? Who do you fight for? Gaara asked. To be honest, I fight for myself. But in a way, I also do not. Sasuke said, surprising Gaara. You see, love is not a selfless thing. It is entirely selfish. In a sense, loving others is the same as loving oneself. What you are doing now is not love. It is hate. Sasuke's words seemed to have confused Gaara. What does that mean? I don't understand. Fighting for others is not fighting against oneself, but fighting for yourself. Being unable to love another shows you that you cannot even love yourself. No matter what you tell yourself, you will continue to be alone if you stay like you are now. Strength. What is the point in having all that power, if in the end you are all alone anyway? Sasuke said, his eyes seemingly going into some past. You and I had no reason to exist. No one else has a reason to exist. No one and nothing exists on purpose. You have no place to belong, and neither does everyone else. Everything dies. Even so. Sasuke's eyes morphed into his Mangekyo Sharingan form. Tamarai and Kankuro arrived just in time to see Sasuke standing before Gaara. You. What did you do to him? Tamarai asked Sasuke, his eyes frightening her and Kankuro, for they were unable to sense anything at all. He is much more scary than Gaara. Kankuro thought, looking towards Gaara, who was in a very weakened state. I have done nothing. Looking at Gaara, Sasuke continued in his head. Kotomatsu Kami. Remember this, Gaara of the Sand. With no purpose, you create one. With no place to belong, you make one. With everything dying, you live. Live for yourself, not for yourself. What are you talking about? Umrai was cut off as Sasuke looked to her, shutting her up immediately as Kankuro lifted Gaara so help support him. And you? What happened to being your type? Or was that just a bluff to trick me? I shall remember your words. Sasuke said before disappearing before their very eyes, leaving nothing behind. Not a single ounce or trace of something being wrong. Umrai looked at Kankuro and Gaara, before nodding her head slowly, and they too disappeared from this area. As the Sand team, Gaara, Umrai and Kankuro were hopping away, Gaara spoke up. Umrai. Kankuro. Ha. Both responded. Sorry. Gaara said, surprising these two siblings of Gaara's as they continued on their way. Don't worry about it. Kankuro said. Back within the village hidden in the leaves, an unfortunate event was taking place, for many had gathered around the rooftops of the area the Hokage was meant to be seated at. A lot of people were standing there, motionless as they gazed down at their leader's body on the roof. Everyone gazed with tense faces, for their leader was dead. Or at least seemed to be dead, as his pulse was nowhere to be found. His breathing had stilled and his body had not moved ever since his fight against his previous student known as Orochimaru. A sad day would proceed afterward. The memorial service for the third Hokage was underway, everyone gathered not only for him but for all of those that had unfortunately lost their lives in this battle. Everyone whom died protecting what they loved or believed they loved. The third Hokage included, as those closest to him reminisced in their memories shared together with this old man. No one shed any tears, even those closest at this funeral, as everyone there just so happened to be shinobi. Whether they be from civilian families turned ninja, all the way to those noble shinobi clans. The third Hokage was a man that seemed to know of everyone, and had brought joy to everyone as much as he could, even in dealing with situations that were grim. One must not forget the extent the Hokage would go, to be peaceful and resolve things. Sasuke, in attendance with many others, brought flowers, even when there happened to be some noticeable exceptions to said attendance. Well, I don't blame them. While Sasuke was battling against Gaara, he had used Kotomatsu Kami on Gaara, realizing the choice he was making. Foregoing the life of Hiruzen Sarutobi, he decided that it would be better to have Gaara change, for sure. I had to make sure that my talk no jutsu would get through Gaara's head, for I know I am not Naruto Uzumaki. I will not regret my decision. Sasuke thought as people started to lay their white flowers down, dressed in traditional funeral garments, black in color. When a person dies, their past, their present and their future dies with them. In the end, all that matters is what matters to oneself. Sasuke's Sharingan eyes remembered the faces of those that he had knowingly foregone when choosing not to use Kotomatsu Kami on Orochimaru. Comment. 9 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 42, V.1C.42 Aftermath 2. Repair work was underway. The attack was meant to be fought on 2 fronts. Tsunegakyo's Jinchuriki Gaara would make it to the final rounds of the Chunin exams and release his tailed beast Shukaku from the center of the village. While Konoha was preoccupied with the one tail, Tsunegakyo and Otogakyo forces would break through the walls surrounding the village. Orochimaru, having only one goal for the invasion, would fight and kill his old mentor and the current Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Though Konoha never knew the exact details of the invasion or who would be invading, it suspected an attack and had its forces prepare for the worst. In the end, damage had been done, which led to the people starting to work on repairs, as to get everything up and back to running normally. With the deaths of many, Konoha has taken a blow to their military strength once again, even when having some hidden strong players within. The economy, thankfully, seems to be keeping afloat even with this impact on their people. While a whole banking helps, the system is not infallible after all. On to more important things is the current nature of peace that Konohagakyo has managed to maintain due to the village hidden in sand submitting defeat. In doing so, both Konohagakure and Tsunegakure are able to keep themselves afloat from any pressure exerted from outside forces. Neighboring nations may get bold enough to try something, and as a result Konoha may not be able to resist. Survival was on the minds of those higher up in the village, particularly for the advisors that have to select a new Hokage. So, care to tell me anything, Sasuke? Kushina asked as she grabbed a hold of him and started to rub his head using her knuckles. Stopping her, Sasuke asks. What do you mean? He stepped back as Hinata and Sakura came into view as well, coming into the designated meeting spot. What are you two talking about? Sakura asked, with Hinata also being curious about. Well, Sasuke here, during the Chunin exams managed to go off and find himself another teacher. Kushina said, remembering what Jiraiya told her. That pervert wants you to go with him on a small journey. A small mission to help him retrieve someone. Really? I have given the okay. But you better not pick up any strange habits from that idiot. Kushina referred to Jiraiya as such. She must have been an unfortunate victim to Jiraiya's perverted nature. Sasuke sighed, before replying. I think I know of who you are talking about. Don't worry. You are going on a mission with another? Hinata asked. From the looks of it. Yes. Sasuke responded. Is it now? Sasuke didn't know how being a Jinchuriki would affect Itachi, given that he wanted to protect him above all else. Well, that is if Itachi even still feels the same way. He said that he will come to get you soon. Kushina supplied. So, I guess you are free to leave now. Hinata, Sakura. You two still have some more training to do. Kushina then turned towards these two girls, before proceeding to go into the training grounds set for them. Bye, Sasuke. Hinata said her goodbye, before following after Kushina. Stay safe, Sasuke. Sakura was hesitant, but hugged him, having grown much more passionate in her feelings and comfortability in physical touch with Sasuke. I will. Sasuke let her hug him. She isn't as big as Ino, but what do I care? Sasuke quickly caught his thoughts there before going any further. You can let go of me now. Oh. Right, sorry. Sakura replied, while internally. Yes. Take that Ino pig. I am able to hug Sasuke too. Sakura turned around and followed after the other two, probably going to be trained some more without Sasuke's influence. Sasuke himself turned and left, going back towards the Uchiha district, given that he has nowhere else in particular to go to right now. Soon enough, Sasuke came across a returning Izumi. Nodding his head, he greeted her as such before trying to leave, and being stopped. Where do you think you are going? Izumi asked. You need something. Sasuke asked. You think you are some big hotshot now, don't you? Her face showed annoyance, and like the elder sister she acted she was, Sasuke found her to be annoying to himself as well. No, not really. Sasuke replied. You little brat. Izumi had grown closer to Sasuke as well, but there always seemed to be this barrier Izumi put up, stopping her from truly becoming close with Sasuke. Probably still has to do with Itachi. Sasuke wanted his second eternal Mangekyo more and more as time passed. Knowing full well that Itachi would be entering here soon, that is if he is still on the same mission, Sasuke will try and see if he could gain access to Sedai. I am going to my room now. What Sasuke didn't know, is that Izumi didn't become close to him as she did with Mikoto is due to the innate fear she feels towards him. Not his connection to Itachi, or his status as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. None of those things. He still hasn't changed. This was Izumi's thoughts. Sitting down within his room, Sasuke pulls out a specific paper that is used to test one's chakra affinity. Maybe I should have done this earlier, but I already have an idea of what my affinities should be. Most people have chakra that has an affinity to one of the 5 elements. To find out what affinity someone has, pieces of paper that are made from a special type of tree are used to react to the slightest hint of chakra in any number of ways, depending on the nature latent in the chakra. As an Uchiha, he has a natural affinity for fire, which is a given. Also, although it wasn't explicitly stated, it was implied that Sasuke also had some type of affinity for lightning. Using the chakra paper, what appears before Sasuke is exactly what he was not expecting. Was his thought, for the paper decided to do something extremely weird. The paper split 4 ways, indicating wind affinity. Now split into 4 pieces, each piece had a different reaction. One piece caught on fire and turned into ash. The second piece wrinkled. The third piece turned to dirt and crumbled away, while the last piece became damp. What is the meaning of this? Sasuke's face broke into confusion. Does this mean I have an affinity for all 5 elements? Of course, Sasuke forgot to take into account his new bloodline limits he has access to, including his original affinities. Even before I have the Rinnegan as well. Fueling his desire even more now, Sasuke decided that he will set something up so that he may discreetly take Shisei's eye in Itakai's possession when he comes. And I think I will have to use Kotomatsu Kami as well. It would not be easy otherwise, so using this overpowering genjutsu would help him out in doing so. Greetings youthful Sasuke Uchiha. What brings you before me today? Might Guy, in his ever bright and boisterous mode said as Sasuke had come to him. Those eyes definitely tell me he is more than genin. Guy regarded Sasuke's body as well, knowing full well that the physical training he must have put himself through to achieve this level. Hello. Sasuke's eyes still had his activated Sharingan, ever blaring and blazing to life. I wanted to learn from you. I had seen the techniques used by Lee, and wanted to see if I could learn to use those same techniques as well. Oh. What a youthful lad. Sure, I can help you learn a bit more of our taijutsu style. Guy responded. I don't need your taijutsu style. I meant to say that I wish to learn how to open the 8 gates. Sasuke responded, correcting Guy on what he wanted to learn. To be honest, I have already learnt, memorized and further explored the taijutsu used itself. What I want to know now is how you access the gates. This got Might's face looking very grim. I don't think I could do that. Guy was scared enough as is that Sasuke was able to do many things, his strength being perfectly hidden underneath, with seemingly no one knowing any better. You see, the 8 gates exist in order to limit the flow of chakra within an individual's body. Ordinarily, individuals can use no more than 20% of their body's full potential, the brain's way of protecting the individual from harming their body through overexertion. Guy started. With training, individuals can learn to remove these limiters, referred to as opening the gates. With each opened gate, individuals are given access to more and more of their body's chakra, thus increasing their physical strength and speed. Is there a specific reason you wish not to teach me? Sasuke said while inwardly he was thinking. TCH. And here I thought you would allow me. I even saved your student, Lee, from total career death. Well, it would take years for a person to even be able to open the first gate. Do you think you can wait years? Might Guy asked. I do not mind. I may not even use this technique, as I know that it has drawbacks. I wish to learn of this to protect my loved ones. Sasuke knew the right words to evoke some emotions that may allow him to change Guy's mind. Guy thought on it for a moment, a long moment, as he seemed to go through some sort of montage. Mr. Guy. Sasuke asked to wake him from his stupor. Mr. Guy. Oh. Sorry about that, young Sasuke. I believe that if it is for your loved ones, then I may be able to teach you this. However, you must promise that you shall not use it for any other means than exactly what you said you wish to use it for. Guy said, his face grim in expression, his demeanor also being very serious despite the silliness of his overall atmosphere. Narrowing his eyes, Sasuke thinks. I don't want to be handicapped, so learning the 8 gates technique will help me fight you off if I need to in the future. Sasuke continues by saying. Of course. I will only use what you teach me for the sake of protecting a loved one, family, or teammates. Great. Okay. Now I can see that you have a greater physical condition than Lee, meaning that you should be able to open the first gate at least. Might Guy would go on to divulge his secrets to Sasuke, where he seemed to have overcome whatever suspicions he had due to Sasuke's age and the words Sasuke had said. In another secluded area, Sasuke was currently experimenting with his clones. Shadow clones had lined themselves and started to tap into other abilities and powers. Specifically bloodline limits that his body didn't originally be born with. I guess it is a good and bad thing that I have keyed the Chimera seal to myself. Sasuke had, through a stroke of luck, made the Chimera seal completely unique in that it has merged with him. It was not something could use, as the patterns, seals and everything else had linked intrinsically to his very being. One may even call this my actual cheat, I guess. Sasuke thought, before his shadow clones started to practice manipulation of the elements. Elemental chakra control was the next step in becoming more powerful, as Sasuke's current skill level dictated that he was around Jonin. Stronger than Kakashi at least, what with his skills, techniques and overall physical condition. Learning under Might Guy for the short time period he did, he managed to further increase the difficulty of his gravity seals. His physical capabilities were now exploding, what with his extra bloodlines, previous physical conditioning and chakra mutations he gathered onto himself. Shadow clones used ice release, having gotten better at using it as well. Sasuke could probably place himself around the same level as Haku at this point when it comes to this nature release. Sasuke held up his hand, manipulating some sand he had collected, proving to himself that Gaara did indeed have magnet release. And I am far from done yet. Sasuke had many more targets he wished to go after and start absorbing their chakra to start adding new chakra mutations into his genetics. One above all was Naruto's, as that would help him unlock the Rinnegan. I have no idea if that is all I need, but given the nature of the Sharingan and Rinnegan, with how it awakened, Sasuke would probably have to find something else to give him a good emotion punch in the gut. The best remedy to this option in particular would be to use the girl, Yakumo Kurama. First, Sasuke planned to use Kotomatsu Kami to get the other Kotomatsu Kami eye from Attack Eye once he came. Second, Sasuke would implant this eye. Third, he would absorb Naruto's chakra through the Chimera seal and create the right concoction within himself to gain access to the Rinnegan. Lastly, Sasuke would get Yakumo Kurama to use her bloodline limit to influence him and awaken the Rinnegan. The extra step, or extra objective after that would be to use the Chimera seal on Yakumo herself. Sasuke nodded his head, as many clones were going through the motions, manipulating chakra, controlling chakra natures, practicing the use of new bloodline limits and more. Comment. 7 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 43, V.1C.43 Aftermath 3. I finally meet the infamous Kakashi Hatake. Sasuke approached Kakashi, whom seemed to be busy overlooking the training of his genin students. Sasuke Uchiha. And to what do I owe the pleasure? Kakashi replied, not taking his eyes off of the book he was currently reading. Something, but it shouldn't be much. You have some rather interesting genin students, it would seem. Sasuke said as he gazed towards the progress being made by Team 7, differing from how things would have originally gone. Yes. I am quite surprised that Naruto even managed to make it that far into the Chunin exams. Yes, he had plot armor. Or at least something similar in the form of his destiny foreseen by the Toads, and even then, that doesn't take into account him previously being one of the Kyuubi Jinchurikis and being Ashura reincarnate. Sasuke thought, before saying, "Say, you wouldn't mind showing me a few of your techniques, would you?" "Why? Does Lady Kushina not have enough stuff for you to practice?" "Yes and no. She barely has any ninjutsu I could use and take advantage of through my Sharingan. I know of your epithet, being the copycat ninja and all, so I was hoping you would help another copycat out." Sasuke pointed towards his eyes as he said this. "I will give you some new releases of that book you're reading there. I have direct access to the author," Sasuke said, giving the man some incentive, which he looked very interested in. "Do you have any proof to validate your claims?" "Sure." Sasuke pulled out a state-of-the-art, new release and signed version of the adult entertainment book that Kakashi was reading. "Whoa. You really do know the author? Or at least managed to get his signature and all, with an exclusive cover?" Kakashi seemed overly excited here, before regaining himself. "Okay. I can give you one technique for this." "One technique? You are being stingy. Take it or leave it. Name any technique and if I know it, I will teach it to you." "Chidori." "Kek." Kakashi coughed here, not expecting Sasuke to go right for the throat with this one. "I can't do that one." "Then I guess you don't want this limited edition, signed book then." Sasuke ignited a small fire at the tip of his fingers, before holding the book over this flame. Wait. Okay. Fine. I will give you the technique. Deal." Sighing, Kakashi thought to himself. This kid really knows how to blackmail people, huh? Kakashi narrowed his eyes, regarding Sasuke and all of his current self. Right from his hidden strength within his body, to the fully matured and always active Sharingan eyes, and this sense of something laying just beneath. Is that the Kyuubi? He wondered, before throwing those thoughts to the back of his mind. All right, kid. Creating a shadow clone, he continues. My shadow clone here can perform the technique once for your eyes to copy, but only once. That is fine. Sasuke said. Thank you. Sasuke disappeared with the shadow clone of Kakashi's, proceeding to learn the technique all in one go, easily at that. Sasuke didn't need anything else other than that, where he could make up for the experience needed and come up with his own training regimen. After all, he basically has been handling himself since the very start, with the aid of others of course. Without the knowledge, the bloodlines, the teaching methods, his knowledge, also accumulated from those before him, he would not be able to reach the point he has. That kid is scary. Kakashi had those thoughts, for despite sensing Sasuke approaching, it was like it was on purpose. But I can't say for sure. In the end, social creatures cannot exist fully by themselves. One must come before them for one to truly survive. Sasuke thought as he had now formally gotten access to yet another powerful technique in the form of the Chidori. With his advanced chakra control and his large chakra reserves that just increase day by day, Sasuke would be able to spam this as much as he would like. Sasuke had acquired all that he wanted to really know from those within Konoha that would be willing to train him. Even then, for those that weren't or unable, he was likely able to permanently borrow their techniques through the Sharingan anyway. Examples of this being the Yamanaka, Nara and Akimichi clans. Sasuke by this point had, at least their core techniques in his repertoire, not that he would use all of them, or any at all unless they were useful when need, like the Yamanaka's mind transfer techniques. When fighting and using my Susanoo, it seemed to be incomplete. Sasuke had only ever used it then and he tried to use it to its fullest abilities, but there seemed to be something holding him back. Which I believe to be the current state of my eyes. There was also some differences here and there, where it did take on that purplish hue but also seemed like there was something more to his Susanoo. Like there happened to be something missing. That is right. I had no weapons or anything else of the sort, despite pulling it towards the more complete form. He had no saber, bow, odachi, nothing. Like there was something missing from himself, and that part needed to be completed. But even then, there feels like I need to take something from someone. Sasuke wondered about this feeling, but had to put this aside for the moment. Mistress Mitarashi? Sasuke asked, as a woman approached him. Heh. What's up, brat? Anko said, looking around herself and seeing what Sasuke was up to. You must train often then? She asked. I do. Sasuke nodded his head as he regarded the woman. Is there something you wish to speak to me about? Anko did have something, as she thought of the curse mark upon her neck and looked at Sasuke that just so happened to be completely okay. Mistress Mitarashi? Sasuke said in a questioning tone, for Anko was acting strangely. I heard you were good at seals. Anko finally said. I am. Sasuke replied, before he heard his small dog companion start running towards the two of them. Barking a bit, Shio comes from the tree line, seemingly holding on to something within her mouth. Raising her eyebrows, Anko sees that Sasuke has a ninken. I didn't expect an Uchiha to have a ninken. I didn't even notice that you possibly had one, anywhere and even in the Chunin exam. She said, having paid close attention to Sasuke due to Orochimaru wanting him. Yes. I received her from the Inuzuka. They were kind enough to provide. Sasuke replied, petting Shio and congratulating her for being able to retrieve something he had hidden. Sasuke was out here training her after all, as he wanted her to get better and better as well. Sasuke himself was growing at a pace that was so fast that he wouldn't need Shio to help him. However, she is still useful for some things, and it isn't like he hasn't been trying to make Shio stronger as well. He had even designed a gravity seal specifically around Shio, making her physically stronger than your average ninken. Received, huh? Anko looked at the two, and thought. I thought he would be a bit more emo. You still haven't told me the reason you are here. Sasuke's Sharingan eyes looked at her, making her feel a split second of fear for some reason. What was that? She controlled herself and asked. I am here because the late third Hokage recommended you and your teacher to help me out. With this, Anko didn't mind showing the cursed mark. Really? Sasuke took a look, and already knowing what it does, he just needs to come up with a way to break the curse mark's hold. I can't remove it. However, I can help you, but I am unable to remove, now. Really? Anko didn't expect to hear those words, however if he could do something about, then she was all ears. I can seal it even stronger, so that it won't even work, but it will still be there. In the future, I will have the capacity to fully destroy it, but right now, I cannot. Sasuke revealed, before stepping forward, making Anko step back. Stay still. What are you going to? Anko was interrupted however, as Sasuke's hand came up too fast for her eyes to follow. Unprepared, Anko was struck where the seal was, with Sasuke providing a small change in sealing method. Backing up, Anko held her neck as felt some amount of pain, before it totally disappeared. As if the seal wasn't there at all. That was it. Yes. I will decide on your payment later. Come, Shio. Shio jumped up onto Sasuke's head, before he disappeared before Anko's eyes. Her mind catching up to her, Anko calls out. Wait. I have to pay. There was this eerie feeling within the air, even with the sun high up above, and the village people were still in the process of fixing things up, there was a lingering shadiness of sorts. Flying within the air, a small bird seemed to be looking overhead towards some certain individuals. Well. I knew that both Itachi and his current partner would come, and separating them will be annoying. Sasuke thought as he was currently in control of the bird. Itachi was a fairly tall man of fair complexion. He had black eyes, under which were long, pronounced tear troughs. He had jet black hair that was pulled back in a low ponytail and his face was framed with center-parted bangs that extended to his chin. The ponytail and bangs grew longer over the years. As a member of Akatsuki, he wore the standard Akatsuki cloak and a slashed Konoha forehead protector to symbolize his broken ties with the village. The cloak's high collar would obscure his ponytail. He would sometimes unbutton his cloak to mid-chest and rest his left arm there, rather than in the sleeve. Under his cloak he wore clothes similar to the rest of Akatsuki. Mesh armor with navy accents under an identical t-shirt with a simple white belt around the waist and dark blue pants. On his right ring finger was his Akatsuki ring, which was red and bore the kanji for vermilion. He wore light blue nail polish on his fingers and toes and a necklace that had 3 silver rings with red gems inside them. Then Kaizen Hoshigeki. Kaizen was a very tall, muscular shinobi, and was the tallest member in Akatsuki. He had a distinctive shark-like appearance, complete with pale, blue-gray skin. He has small, round, white eyes, 3 sets of curved facial markings under his eyes, gills on his shoulders, and sharp triangular teeth, the latter of which is a shared trait amongst most of the other members of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. He also styled his blue hair in the form of a shark fin. As a member of Akatsuki, he also wore dark purple nail polish. Sasuke made sure that the bird completely acted normal, very easily copying the way birds act. Even more so would Sasuke switch into another bird every so often. After all, Itachi and Kaizen are both powerful and perceptive individuals. Especially Itachi, so any and all caution is advised. Sasuke watched as Kaizen and Itachi were discovered by Kakashi, where even Kuinai and Asuma would come across them as well. A fight would proceed after. Soon enough, even Might Guy would join in on the mix of shinobi present. However, even before Might was able to do anything, Itachi had both himself and Kaizen retreat. Now that I think about it, I could just wait until these two come and attack me, trying to extract the Kyuubi from myself. They likely have knowledge that Naruto is no longer a Jinchuriki, which leads to myself being the only target on their list. Sasuke thought, deactivating the upgraded mind transfer technique. He had his things packed already, said goodbye to Mikoto, as this journey would take at least a short while, before teleporting nearby enough to Jiraiya at the gates. Having spoken already with the dude, there was no more need for Sasuke to stay, knowing that they would eventually come after him. However, what really intrigues me right now what Itachi is going to do. After all, he is only pretending to be within the Akatsuki, making it even harder with his precious little brother as the target. Sasuke is also sure that it comes at a shock for Itachi, that finding out that Sasuke was a Jinchuriki as well. I created a nice new name that I think I will use for you. Pervy Sage. Sasuke said as he approached said sage at the gates. Ha! I am the great mountain sage. Jiraiya turned, incredulous about what Sasuke had just said. Never mind that. I thought we were going to see some sort of beautiful woman. Sasuke asked, as Jiraiya had put it, they were on a mission to see a beautiful woman. Yes. Jiraiya nodded his head after his outrage, before saying. Follow me. Comment. 11 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 44, V.1C.44 Search for Tsunade. Soon enough, Jiraiya left Sasuke alone with the key to a place they were going to stay out while in this small town, as he goes and chases after a skirt. I mean, sure, leave me your current charge that you are in charge of protecting and go and get some. The post town was called Shukuba Town. A pleasure district in the Land of Fire, a short distance travel from Konohigakure. It has many hotels and inns, restaurants, bars, and brothels. One of the streets is called Fun Avenue. Really appropriate stuff, and not something I am too surprised about. However, there is no such things that exist within Konoha, meaning that regulations on that type of stuff must be high there. Sasuke thought as he was now within the room, sitting down and awaiting Jiraiya. More like I am awaiting Itakai and Kaizen. A knock comes at the door, where Sasuke senses the presence of 2 people. Getting up, Sasuke moves forward and opens the door to reveal Itakai Uchiha, Sasuke's older brother. Just behind him, Kaizen Hoshigeki walks around. Ha! Sharingan. And moreover, he resembles you a lot. Sasuke Uchiha, right? Yes. Itakai's face was impassive, but there seemed to be some level or measure of surprise one could sense, for Itakai didn't think Sasuke would have developed his Sharingan so far. Sasuke, you will come with us. Sasuke knew that the guy was pretending, but at the same time. I don't know, man. For now, you will just have to be my enemy, no matter what side you are you. Sasuke walked into the hallway, knowing soon enough that Jiraiya would arrive. Itakai Uchiha. Sasuke said, his eyes then flickering to Kaizen. Kaizen Hoshigeki. Ha! It would seem like the kid knows even my own name. Kaizen said, before asking Sasuke a rhetorical question. Quite the coincidence that you are the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, isn't it? Kaizen then turned to Itakai. We should restrain him a bit. Wouldn't want him to try anything. Itakai didn't say anything, only staring. Kotomatsu Kami. Sasuke thought as just wanted to implant the command that Itakai would send Sasuke Shisei's second eye when he has the chance. Not only had Sasuke implanted this command via Kotomatsu Kami, he also made sure that any influence, memory or anything pointing towards Sasuke having Kotomatsu Kami vanishes from Itakai's mind. Soon enough after that, Jiraiya shows up to deal with the problem, prompting Itakai and Kaizen to retreat. Even before Itakai could try and actually use Tsukuyomi on Sasuke, for Sasuke had not been under the influence of that ability yet. Sasuke is pretty sure that Itakai wanted to still use Tsukuyomi on him to make him generate some more hatred and go after him. That's not gonna happen. Sasuke thought, his own resistance to visual genjutsu being at a level above Itakai's Tsukuyomi. One may think how, and that is due to the fact that Sasuke has already implanted Shisei's right eye, where he has full control over it, and it is what he believes to be the strongest possible genjutsu he knows of. Even beyond the infinite Tsukuyomi. Of course, I only refer to it as the strongest as the only known way to combat it, from my knowledge, is to have access to Kotomatsu Kami itself. Sasuke thought as Jiraiya helped clear things up. Well, soon enough step 1 will be complete. Sasuke thought before looking at Jiraiya. Who are we going to look for anyway? You didn't say who it was except giving away that it is to be some beautiful woman. He asked. We are going to go and get a medical specialist. Jiraiya said, not giving away anything else, and having a serious look in his eyes, he continues. The one who uses the slug and drives illness away, and who is also one of the Sanin like me. Princess Tsunade with the letter gamble on her back. I thought you said we were going to see some beautiful woman. Not some old lady who is around the same age as yourself. Sasuke said, waking Jiraiya from his seriousness. That may be what you think, but you will be surprised once you see her. Jiraiya said, before continuing. Come on. We have no more time to lose. Continuing on their journey, Sasuke and Jiraiya would come to another town, where Jiraiya would spend his time having a good time with some girls. And he was just talking about the 3 prohibitions of being a ninja. Jiraiya was generally light-hearted and gregarious, making jokes at his own expense and giving a mirthful laugh about it afterwards. In his interactions with others, he liked to pretend to be smug or selfish, upsetting them so that he could further rile them up with his humor. Jiraiya was a self-proclaimed super pervert with no equal. His favorite hobby was spying on women while they bathe, a passion he flaunted openly and in fact took pride in because of how infrequently he was caught. Jiraiya's perversion has backfired on him a number of times. However, I will let the old man have some free time to enjoy himself. He may, perhaps, sooner or later die. He can train me later as well, for I see a little birdie coming my way. Sasuke gazed up into the sky, as a crow was seen flying just above him. It flew downwards and landed on Sasuke's shoulder, now fully under his control for the period of time that he has the bird. This crow had Sasuke Uchiha's left eye implanted into it. Actually, it is kind of ridiculous how eyes are treated usually within this universe. They are like light bulbs. Sasuke regarded the bird for a bit, seeing the Sharingan eye in its left side. Summoning shadow clones, Sasuke gets them to set up a barrier so that he may proceed with utmost caution. Taking out some tools he had prepared beforehand, he starts the process of taking the eye out of the crow before taking out another crow eye he had taken before and transplanting it into the crow. It wouldn't do well for this bird to all of a sudden only have one eye. Itachi is still a spy within the Akatsuki, and he is still useful. Sasuke thought before putting Sasuke's left eye in another container, safe from contamination and specially made to make sure the eye remains in peak condition. Sasuke then proceeds to make another shadow clone, and as with all of his shadow clones, their eyes are in a permanent state with a fully matured and activated Sharingan. All right. You know what to do next, right? Sasuke asked his clone. The clone nodded before Sasuke laid himself down on the ground, covered by a tarp. Using a series of medical ninjutsu, sterilized tools and one more thing. I do wonder why no one seems to take this implantation process seriously. I don't believe I have ever seen anyone even try to use some anesthetic. As dangerous as it may be, Sasuke knew that it would be safer to do it this way, hidden away, chakra obscured and the process only going to take up to a few minutes due to the nature of medical ninjutsu. The process didn't take too long. The shadow clone extracting Sasuke's left eye completely and putting it into another container, safe and sound. Implanting the eye took not too long, but connecting the nerves would have been even harder if Sasuke was not able to use his Sharingan to see everything. The entire process was finished, and soon enough, Sasuke's shadow clone helped improve the rate of regeneration and the process of removing the anesthetic by pumping the Kyuubi's chakra through his system. It was effective, as in the next few minutes Sasuke had awoken, his eye feeling as if nothing had just happened. Well, that was easy. Getting up, the shadow clone disperse and the other shadow clones disperse as well, letting down the barrier as the process was done. Looking towards the crow, Sasuke released it and it would return to Itachi for his own use. Sharingan. Sasuke's eyes transformed, taking on the red hue before he thought again. Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan form was now that of the eternal version, meaning he needn't worry about ever overusing his eyes again. And I have access to the full Kotomatsu Kami. With both, its power, effectiveness, efficiency in use and the number of times he could use this power had increased. Use Kotomatsu Kami to get Kotomatsu Kami. Sasuke wanted to now fully train himself in the use of his eyes. Mastering them more and more should allow him to gain access to a better and more complete form. I also wonder if there is a way for me to take the items Itachi's Susanoo have. Sasuke had to think on this some other time, as he went towards a small pond, looking into the reflection he was able to see his new design. It was of the six-pronged star, the original Sasuke's Mangekyo in combination with the strange four-sided design of Sasuke's gave birth to something else. Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan in full was at the center of Sasuke's eyes. A circle containing it within, while the six-pronged star was still the same. Not all it had changed, but it was still different from what it had originally looked like. Nothing too special, but it looks good enough. Sasuke thought before going back into town. Soon enough, Sasuke found Jiraiya and spoiled his fun, leading to Sasuke asking Jiraiya to teach him something. All right. Here are some water balloons. You will be spinning your chakra to move the water within this balloon. Too little, you fail to do anything. Too much, the balloon pops and you also fail. Jiraiya said. In fact, you will want to create and build up chakra enough to do exactly that. Pop the balloon. So am I learning the Rasengan. Not bad. Sasuke held up one of those balloons. Okay. Let me try. Concentrating a bit, he managed to start moving the water. Is there anything else that I must know before I continue? Sasuke asked, before stopping. Well, through trial and error you are supposed to learn how to do this, but... Jiraiya started before looking into the sky. You wish to go spend some more time with those girls? Sasuke deadpanned. Ah ha ha ha. Of course I do. You are definitely smart. Jiraiya nodded his head, gesturing for Sasuke to come forward, placing his hand atop his head, before continuing. It seems like you are a left rotation type. In order to build up chakra, it is necessary to blend the energy. So everybody unconsciously builds up chakra inside the body by rotating it. Whether that rotation at that point is to the right or to the left, differs in the individual. Therefore, if you imagine the rotation of the water balloon opposite to that of your rotation type in this training, your chakra flow divides and resists, and the momentum of the rotation does not get on track. You should be able to figure that kind of stuff on your own. How does one even know which way then? Sasuke asked, and Jiraiya replied. Of course it is the way that your hair grows. The cowlick, and whether it goes to the left or right pretty much determines it so. This is kind of silly, but I guess this is the world I have been living in. Sasuke thought. Okay. Jiraiya would go on to explain other things, like how one only needs chakra for this technique in particular. Sasuke would go on to train himself in this ability to pump chakra until it allows him to pop the balloon. Jiraiya was enjoying himself at a brothel, no doubt. Naruto didn't manage to pop the balloon without the aid of his other hand. Certainly, doing it the way Naruto did it would be good and easier, but that is not the way I wish to master right now. Sasuke thought, before creating a few hundred shadow clones and having them split off from each other. Most started to work on the method used by Jiraiya, while Sasuke and a few others decided to try out the method Naruto used. Using both hands, Sasuke managed after taking that one day of training to complete this bit of training. Both the version used by Jiraiya and the version he had to recreate, basically becoming his own since no one else had officially come up with it in this world just yet. Rotating the water within the balloon many directions, Sasuke managed to do it both ways. With both and one hand. Next was the rubber ball. The difficulty increased, but since Sasuke had managed to get the first part, the next would only come naturally, with first using both hands method and then moving on to the one hand method. Concentrating chakra, Sasuke would manage to further increase his training speed and get this over within another day. It may have taken a bit, but training one's body and chakra in specific ways through the hard way is usually the only way to start using certain techniques. After all, even the Sharingan itself had some level of requirement just so one could awaken it, let alone master the abilities present. Soon enough, time passes. Comment. 8 comments. Vote. 1 left. Chapter 45, V.1c.45 Search for Tsunade 2. I think it is time to meet Tsunade. Jiraiya said, having spent a good amount of time lazing around and enjoying the local town Soman. Really? Time passed by quickly. For Sasuke it didn't actually move as fast as he said, for the Sharingan makes everything slower. Hurry up. Let's go and back our thing. After going back, Jiraiya and Sasuke were now ready to depart from this place, having nothing left to do here. Why didn't you tell me of the third training step already? Sasuke asked. Okay. Let's go. Jiraiya called as he didn't answer Sasuke's question, choosing to ignore him instead and start making their way towards Tsunade. The first step was spin. The second step was power. And finally the third step is this. Jiraiya passed Sasuke an ordinary balloon. Sasuke stared at this ordinary balloon within Jiraiya's hand. I am sure that you can see it with those eyes of yours, but I will explain anyway. Watch me, it looks as if I am simply holding an ordinary balloon. Let's have you deactivate your Sharingan here for a bit, and watch with the eyes of us normal folk. Sasuke did just that, with Jiraiya proceeding to create the very basic and incomplete form of what was meant to be the Rasengan. I see. Right, you do see. Now you understand what you must do next, right? Jiraiya's left hand showed visible chakra, even towards those that are not able to normally see chakra. Its form was like that of a typhoon, the chakra energies going every which way but in a controlled environment. That environment taking shape as a sphere. I do. Sasuke replied. While keeping the spin and the power at their maximum, imagine creating a single layer within the balloon and compressing the chakra within it. To get the most out of this exercise, I do suggest you go without using that precious Sharingan of yours. Jiraiya said. Either way, because of your chakra control level, I am sure that you would get it straight away. Give it a try. Jiraiya prompted Sasuke. All right. Focusing on the balloon, without his Sharingan, Sasuke made apt use of his skill and started to control his chakra, creating spin in just one hand, along with increasing the power to its maximum as well. After a few solid seconds, there was no explosion that happened due to the balloon, and Sasuke was able to pass the third test easily. I knew it. Jiraiya thought to himself. Despite being a Jinchuriki, his chakra control is much greater than what it should be. He is a monster of monsters. I don't even think that brother of his would be able to have this level of chakra control, along with being the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. That was easy. Sasuke said, which definitely put a small twitch to Jiraiya's eye. Yeah. Of course it was. That took me quite a while to learn myself, and this kid gets it down in such a short while. I had him not use his Sharingan for all exercises, and he still did it within a short amount of time. TCH. All right. Let's go. Jiraiya was collecting information, of course with Sasuke close by to him. Obviously, as I can't exactly face off against those two just yet. Sasuke was thinking of Itakai and Kai's aim, in case they both decided to come back and try to go after him. Which is unlikely, but it is best to stay with his current protector as he increases his knowledge further and further beyond his current state of knowing. Going around the town that Jiraiya believed Tsunade to be in, Sasuke would come across several instances in which the original Naruto would have encountered. From Jiraiya having to win over some information via gambling to Sasuke accidentally helping Jiraiya out, as there is no way Sasuke can even look at things through the view of being lucky. Even if he tried, his mind would be able to catch on and accurately deduce such things. The only thing he wouldn't be able to account for in a gamble would be something like the lotto. However, even then I knew that the next winning card would allow me to win, so it isn't that I have all of a sudden acquired Naruto's luck but instead I am just abusing what I know and applying it to advantage myself. Sasuke won from that old woman selling tickets, leading to Jiraiya thinking about how lucky Sasuke is. That brat. Look at him. He has the money and the babes. Jiraiya thought to himself, comparing Sasuke and his overall likeliness to other individuals that have such luck. All the bad boy types get the ladies. Jiraiya thought to himself, also interested in the Sharingan Sasuke always kept active. I do wonder why he does that. Maybe to get used to having it active, and letting it slowly increase his chakra reserves. Soon enough, Sasuke and Jiraiya happen upon a destroyed castle that happened to be at the center of the village they were visiting. Sasuke was silent looking upon the destruction, and so was Jiraiya. As they were both doing so, some people started to run away from another area, like they were fearing for their lives, with Jiraiya calling out and stopping one of them. Excuse me there, mister. Wait just a moment. Jiraiya called, stopping one of the people passing by, a civilian. What in the world is happening? You should run away too. There's a monster up there. The civilian male called back. What could it be? This monster thing. Jiraiya asked, wanting more details. It's a gigantic snake. It destroyed the castle in a flash. The civilian replied, before starting to run away in fear for his life, leaving Jiraiya and Sasuke to ponder on what this meant. We must hurry, Sasuke. Jiraiya said, thinking to himself that this may or may not be related to Orochimaru. While Sasuke knows for sure that it is. That snake is probably the same one that you saw before. Right. Sasuke nodded, following just behind Jiraiya. Soon enough, night came around and now Jiraiya and Sasuke were walking through the still busy streets of whatever small town or village this happened to be. The main reason I stay with Jiraiya now is safety, but also time. I need time enough to start expanding upon and gaining more strength. There were many ways or methods Sasuke could start using, and he had been exploring any and all options. Ninjutsu, Taijutsu, Genjutsu, Fuinjutsu, bloodline limits, chakra nature transformations, extra techniques that were of a higher level, like the beginnings of Rasengan, and all manner of other ways to get more powerful. Soon enough, I should also have my chance to get Tsunade to try and teach me as well. Her level of medical ninjutsu training would probably be different from what Sasuke learnt, which was only enough to be a doctor in Konohagakure. Again, not up to Sasuke's standards, he wished to learn more, and more, and more. Like a certain snake Sanin's insatiable desire to learn more and more techniques, becoming more powerful and searching for better and newer forms of immortality. While Sasuke in his actual body was walking around with Jiraiya, his shadow clones just so happened to be going through the process of practicing more and more. Every technique he had ever seen and copied, learned and then some. Thankfully I barely even have to do anything, given the level of gravity my body is experiencing. Sasuke still had to make use of his general exercise routine, given that just walking around or even running around wouldn't help all of his muscles develop. No, if there was something where he could just lay impassively in bed and let it do the work, he would do so. Yin and the Yang. Fire, lightning, wind, earth and water. Everything together is all that is needed to theoretically recreate and make new nature releases. Of course bloodline limits exist, but one should be able to use even techniques of other natures as well. Sasuke thought, but knew that there is a large possibility that stuff like wood release and his very own subsumed magnet and ice release is specifically linked to genetics. Aside from the 5 elemental nature transformations, there are 2 nature transformations that are the source of all non-elemental techniques. There is yin release, based on the imagination and spiritual energy of a shinobi, and yang release, based on the vitality and physical energy of a shinobi. Together, they are used to perform yin-yang release. The transformation of yin and yang has to do with altering the balance between spiritual and physical energy in chakra. And that is why a being that is only of yin will exist off of another something's yang, and vice versa. Sasuke was thinking on the Kyuubi. For before having the yang half, Sasuke also noticed that there seemed to be a little something lacking. Still. To think I have developed an overall balance of chakra affinity. Probably due to the presence of other bloodline limits affecting his body and his own inherent talent. Stopping, Jiraiya looks towards a place to get some food. Well, let's dine here for now. Looking himself, Sasuke reads that they had stopped at a pub. Great. But that is also a good idea. Why didn't I remind myself of this possibility? Sasuke had forgotten of something important. That even though it wouldn't really affect him when accessing the chakra of the Kyuubi, it was still dangerous to not be cautious. Poison, toxins, venom, and other forms of dangerous substances would affect my body. Sasuke would need to implement a new training program for himself. Specifically the idea of introducing all types of poison, venom and other things slowly and surely to get his body adapted to such things. Mithridatism. Tolerance to a poison acquired by taking gradually increased doses of it. A pub, really? Sasuke asked as Jiraiya came inside with Sasuke following after. Don't worry about it. This place is the best place for someone to collect information. Jiraiya replied. Looking around, Jiraiya spots someone at a table, but so too does Sasuke and he must admit that Tsunade does look pretty good for a 50-year-old. Even if this is in actuality just the looks provided to her through her technique, it is still impressive. Sasuke nodded his head, already acknowledging this woman's skill. Tsunade is a fair-skinned woman with brown eyes and straight blonde hair that parts above her forehead. Her hair has shoulder-length bangs that frame her face and the rest reaches her lower back. The strength of 100 seal, taking the appearance of a violet diamond shape, is clearly visible on her forehead. She is in fact widely regarded as the most beautiful kunoichi in the world. By her 50s, she appears much older, being heavily wrinkled while rather frail-looking, presumably from overusage of her creation rebirth. However, Tsunade maintains her youthful appearance using a unique transformation technique. Tsunade often wears a grass-green haori with the kanji for gamble on the back, inside a red circle. Underneath she wears a grey, kimono-style blouse with no sleeves, held closed by a broad, dark bluish-grey obi that matches her pants. Her blouse is closed quite low, revealing her sizable cleavage. She wears open-toed, strappy black sandals with high heels. She has red nail polish on both her fingernails and toenails and uses a soft pink lipstick. She wears the first Hokage's necklace for many years. Damn, my hormones are still reacting even when this clearly just a technique to maintain her youthful appearance. TCH. Sasuke found himself being influenced by his desires more and more, probably a result of being an Uchiha and inheriting the curse of passion. Tsunade! Jiraiya exclaimed. But so too did Tsunade. Jiraiya! She got up and shouted across the room. Why are you here? I finally found you. I'm exhausted. Jiraiya started to walk closer, as Sasuke also came along. Sitting down at the same table, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Sasuke and Tsunade's apprentice, Shitsune started to dine, while Tsunade continued to drink. Shitsune is a fair-skinned woman of average height and slender build with onyx eyes and jet black hair. Her hair is straight and shoulder-length with bangs that cover her ears and frame her face. Normally, Shitsune is seen in a long bluish-black kimono with white trimmings, held closed by a white obi, and open-toed sandals with low heels. In any case, today is a day I see many of my old friends. Tsunade said this to herself, but the other three here could hear her. You mean Orochimaru? Jiraiya said. What happened? Nothing really. We just exchanged a greeting. Tsunade pulled out some cards before she placed it on the table, before continuing. What about you? What do you want from me? I'll be straight with you. Jiraiya started to mix up the cards as well, before placing the cards down again. Tsunade, the village has demanded that you become the 5th Hokage. After a short pause, he continued. Do you know about the 3rd Hokage? Orochimaru did it, right? I heard about it, directly from him. Sasuke's Sharingan eyes was able to memorize the patterns of the cards perfectly, and if he was playing, he would easily be able to tell just because he counted. Even without, I would win. Of course, depending on the game, but even then. If you are wondering about the kid next to me, he is Sasuke Uchiha. Jiraiya supplied Tsunade, who did in fact notice Sasuke. I will say this once more. They are demanding that you become the 5th Hokage, Tsunade. So, what is your answer? Will you accept it? What do you say? Tsunade,